Today marks 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz, an extermination camp that was used by the Nazis in Poland.
At least 1 million people, mostly Jews, were murdered there as the camp became a symbol of the Holocaust. NBC's Jay Gray is at Auschwitz this morning and can tell us more on how the day is being commemorated. Jay, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, commemorations throughout the day today that will include, of course, survivors. About 50 have traveled back here to be a part of the ceremony. You've got dignitaries and leaders from around the world, including King Charles, the French President Macron, as well as a U.S. delegation that's led by the Secretary of the Treasury, Stephen Mnuchin. But none of those leaders will step to the podium to speak during the commemorations today. That honor is reserved on this day only for survivors.
There were over 1 million Jewish people killed in Auschwitz alone. So this is kind of a sacred ground, the biggest burial of Jews in the world.
Michael Bornstein somehow escaped the gas chambers, the firing squads inside this death camp. You can see him here, a 4-year-old prisoner of Auschwitz. Now, 80 years later, Bornstein returns, not by force, but by choice.
And it's also important for me to show the world, the bigotry and the hatred that went on in Auschwitz.
Around 50 survivors have gathered here 8 decades after their liberation.
Telling their story, and it's a way that people never forget what happened. And in a few years, there'll be no survivors.
And as their voices begin to fade, the work inside this restricted area of the camp, where cameras are rarely allowed, becomes even more crucial. Conservationists and scientists inside this high-tech lab preserving the history here. Thousands of items cataloged, stored in climate-controlled rooms. Still, with all of this work,
tradition is extremely, extremely important to me.
And with the words of survivors, the story of Auschwitz will never really be complete.
Because there is this darkness that will never be told, because most of the people who were deported to Auschwitz did not survive this place. They were murdered. Most of them never became prisoners of the concentration camp. They were murdered immediately after arrival in gas chambers.
This place, a memorial and museum dedicated to their memory.
Yeah, and those memories, another reason so many survivors return here. In fact, Mr. Bornstein saying that he comes to offer prayers for those lost, including his father and brother Dave, who were murdered here.
All right. Jay Gray live for us this morning. Jay, thank you for sharing that story.